All right, so today I want to cover the pad split model as a good alternative to the short-term rental option. I think it's always good to know the different properties are better suited for different strategies. Obviously, our core solution is the short-term rental model. Average stays 3 to 5 days. We also have the midterm rental model as well that we have for a lot of our stays that tend to be 20 days plus, sometimes 2 or 3 months. But the pad split model is another room by room rental option that is a good solution for certain properties. There are good fits for this solution in properties that aren't necessarily in high-end areas where, typically with short-term rentals and vacation rentals, those are areas that are, command a premium. In a lot of cases, the pad split model doesn't really require for that to be the case. And so there's a lot of properties, albeit single family as well as multifamily, that might be set up for Section 8 or affordable housing. And those are perfect candidates for this solution. And so I want to kind of give a brief overview, not only of kind of the clientele and the types of tenants that would come into a pad split, but also the strategy with maximizing revenue with the property. And so for the most part, historically, pad split has started in the Atlanta market, the corporate offices here in Atlanta, but they have since then, over the last 10 years or so, expanded. And this is a solution in a lot of major cities, and I'll kind of show you which cities they're currently in as well as an option. But here's really the audience that and the clientele that this solution is geared towards, especially with the long-term rental tenants really struggling to afford a lot of the higher rents that are kind of hitting most major cities and major areas. And so there's a large percentage of the renting population that don't make enough income or don't have the minimum credit scores required to sign long-term leases. And so the type of clientele is usually an individual, but it could sometimes be a couple. Most of the tenants are going to be individuals that are either in transition, they're kind of in a lower paying job, but have steady income, but they just don't qualify for a traditional long-term lease in a 1 or 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. And so as a investor and an owner of a property, you can basically set up a property to do room by room rentals. And so, like I was outlining here in this slides, the cost and for deposits and rents are just very high for low income workers. The annual lease and monthly payments really don't fit their current timing of their income. The average workforce credit score is 461. Typically, to qualify for a long-term lease, you're usually at a 640 or in some cases a 680 at a minimum credit score. And then there are a few options, or choices for other alternatives. And what this option does is it creates a solution for that segment of the market. 64% of renter households make less than 40,000 in income a year, and there's a lot of the housing requirements are only people that are making 50,000 or more, or a minimum credit score of 550 or higher. And so there's a large segment of the population that just doesn't have too many options. So what typically tends to happen is they have extended stay hotels or motels that end up being an option that give them that flexibility to make weekly payments or daily payments even based on their pay schedule. Now, as an owner of a property and as an investor, basically the strategy here is you can turn, in this example, we've got a 4-bedroom house. that can basically be converted into 6 bedrooms. And the way that this is done typically is there's kind of a wall that's put up in the middle of a living room to strategically add more bedrooms. And so to maximize revenue, obviously, the more bedrooms you have, the more weekly rents you can set up to increase your income on that property. And so the folks that end up coming in and renting a room do this with the understanding that it is a private room. In some cases, they can pay a little bit extra and get a private bathroom. But the dining area and the kitchen are typically, and some of the bathrooms are typically going to be common areas that are shared. And so when they sign up for these types of arrangements, that's already understood. And so in this example, a 4-bedroom house that presents the income stream of $2,000 a month in income, after converting into a 6-bedroom, now you're at $4,500 gross income. And so it definitely represents a higher margin. Right now, that same 4-bedroom, of course, you could run as a short-term rental or a midterm rental, and you'd probably end up being in that same income range, $4,500 to $5,000, let's say, or a little bit higher. And so there may be some properties that are better suited for short-term, like I mentioned before, but then you might have the pad split option as a better option or more lucrative option as well. I'll give you an example. We had a 5-bedroom ranch house in Kennesaw that we ran as a short-term rental, and we very quickly got complaints and bad reviews because the house was alongside the main railroad track that was going through the town in downtown Kennesaw. And so short-term rental guests would check in, and then 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd have a train rushing by the backyard, which would be basically very disruptive. And now, so we ended up converting that over into a pad split model with tenants, long-term tenants, understanding that's the case, and it ended up being a better solution. Another example of this is we had also another 5-bedroom ranch in Memorial Avenue down in kind of southeast Atlanta. And we had this really bad roach problem that just kept reoccurring. And of course, with short-term rentals, that's a major, you can't even have one roach appear during a guest stay. It could cause them the ability to cancel without any repercussions. And so we did get it somewhat under control, but we ended up converting that property into a pad split because more longer term guests or tenants understand that that's going to be an issue or a possibility, but you can still have pest control that monitors it. So those are 2 examples. Of course, there's also the properties that are set up that are better geared towards Section 8 or affordable housing, and so you can do the math. Are you better off running that as a Section 8, or are you better off doing it as a room-by-room rental as a pad split? And so, kind of the ideal situation or the ideal property to do this with is the ability to maximize your bedroom count, right? And so in this example, we're going from a traditional 3-bedroom ranch that's got additional office rooms and such to be able to convert it into a 7-bedroom house. And so 7 rooms being rented, this kind of represents your potential revenue. There is a pad split fee, which is similar to Airbnb. So pad split really operates very similar to the pad split to the Airbnb model, where basically you're paying a fee to be able to list your property on their platform. Pad split, just like Airbnb would, handles all of the guest communications, all the guest vetting. They do background checks, and they also handle all the collections of the rent. And so it's very similarly set up. It's just with this different room-by-room rental instead of the way that we currently do it on Airbnb. There are obviously other expenses that come in line, but in this example, through maximizing, your net profit after converting it into 7 rooms is $14,400 instead of $6,500. running it as a traditional rental. The other opportunity that's come, and I'm actually in the process now of setting up for studio units in a multifamily building. There are challenges with the same issues with high rents in multifamily, and so we have the option to change studios or one bedrooms into this model as well, into the pad split model where we're doing a weekly rental, and it basically creates an opportunity to have more stability, tenants in there. The average stay for these tenants is usually 8 months, and so it creates a more consistent cash flow. These are the markets, like I mentioned, that pad split currently is operating. Pretty much all the major up and down the East Coast, in the Southwest, in Texas and Arizona, and as well as, of course, Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Richmond, Baltimore, DC, and they're in a lot of pretty much all the cities, all the major cities in Florida as well, as you can see here. And so from an investment standpoint, and as you're looking at different acquisition strategies or rental arbitrage strategies, you can employ this as an option as well. And so, yes, you can do this as a rental arbitrage as well as acquisitions. And so there might be some opportunities to go after some of these larger properties where you can have 7, 8, 9. There are some pad splits that are running 10 and 11 rooms. And so, again, it's the same concept for short-term rentals to do arbitrage. You can also do arbitrage with pad split as well. The other thing that's unique or different a little bit compared to a short-term rental, you don't have to be as concerned about the staging and the decor. You can be a little bit more basic, and basically you're providing kind of the initial startup with the bed and some furniture in the bedroom. There's not really a need to get all the towels and swapping out. There are a lot of pad splits that just basically, when you get started, it's a mattress with a mattress pad, and the tenant brings their own beddings. And so there's a lower cost or startup for this, as well as you can still, obviously, this particular picture doesn't have any pictures on the walls. You don't have to be that basic, but a lot of the pad splits do. So if you want to differentiate yourself, it's the same thing on Airbnb with a platform. It's a competitive environment. And so if you want to be able to, garner a little bit of a premium on your weekly rate compared to other listings, then you can certainly have your staging set up similar to how you would with a regular short-term rental. Save this QR code. This is when you're ready to explore further, or you want to do an analysis on a particular property, if you want to save that link with the QR code, that allows you to kind of do an analysis and puts you directly in touch with one of the sales rep at Pad Split that can kind of walk you through the process. And so feel free to check that out or save that link for future use if you don't have a need right now. Like I said, it's usually good to be able to, as you're going through your investment strategy and looking at different options, to know that this option exists, because you might have a property that will be better suited for this model than not. There are still some additional costs starting up. You do have to put locks, electronic locks on each of the doors. Obviously, each door has got its own private lock that locks so that each tenant can have the privacy within each of their rooms. You would still have also a main lock on the main door. And then you also can do your exterior cameras. There are, because this is more of a different model, they typically have cameras in the common areas as well. So like in the kitchen and dining area, obviously not in the bathrooms, but you could do that in the interior in the kitchen and dining as an option, as well as the outdoor camera setup. So again, hope this was helpful. Just wanted to kind of share some of that. And as I get started with looking at multifamily, I will kind of update everybody and share with you guys what we're doing there as well.